Thousands of years ago, there was a philosopher called Epictetus. He was born a slave who walked with a limp for the rest of his life. And this exact man is the man who became one of the most respected teachers of his time. A lot of students came to him, desperate to become as wise as possible, as quickly as possible. And every single time he told them the same thing. They don't need to try harder. They need to think about the fig. Because you cannot demand a ripe fig this instant. First, you must plant the tree. Then the tree has to blossom. Then the fruit has to set. Then it has to swell and soften in the sun. Rush any of those things and you don't get what you're after at the end of it all. You want to become a great man? He asked. Well then, let things grow. You know, I personally actually keep going back to that idea because a lot of people say the same thing about ambition, is to go harder, go faster, go more, do more, never stop. But Epictetus said the exact opposite. The rush is the exact thing that's keeping you slow and keeping you exactly where you are right now. And I think that by the end of this, you will also think about your goals a little differently. Because let me guess, you've got a ton of things that you want to get done. You want to get fitter, you want to read more, you want to make more money, you want to be happy at your job, you want a better relationship. There's always something that you want. And the list just keeps growing and growing. But the specific thing about you is that you actually care about all of it. The thing you're lacking is just direction, in my opinion, because you're clearly not lazy, because lazy people are comfortable. They sit back, they relax. They don't feel guilty at the end of the day about not doing more, or they feel like they haven't achieved as much as they could have. Lazy people aren't like that. What you are is ambitious. That is why you lay there at night, thinking about the day, thinking about the things you could have done, and already thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow. And I want to tell you that your ambition isn't stuck because of the things that you think, such as not an optimized morning routine, having a better training plan, or a better business approach. I don't think it's actually any of those things. I genuinely believe it's because you do too many things at once. It's like Epictetus said, you have to slow down in order to speed up. Because if you speed up too much and all the time, that's only going to keep you getting slower and slower and slower, to a point where you probably reach a stop. And because of all the things that you want to do, you end up overwhelming yourself, and then you reach for something easy, such as your game or your phone or just watching Netflix until you fall asleep. And then this is where the fig theory by Epictetus comes back. The reason why the impatience is making you slower is because you're not allowing yourself to be present in the thing that you're doing right now. You're always 10 steps ahead. You're always thinking about what next, what's in the future. Well, you have to finish what it is that you're doing right now. Because if you don't, then every step that you take right now just becomes something like for the sake of it. Oh, I have to do this. Rather than understanding that this is something you want to do, something you want to endure for a prolonged period of time in order to get to your desired outcome. And because of that, you want to skip the slow, unimpressive, and sometimes even boring things because they don't feel exciting or they don't feel like they're making you progress. But that thing that you want to skip is the progress itself. That's the thing that actually gets you from point A to point B. It's the middle part. The start is just the idea. The end is the goal. But the middle is the boring, mundane, repetitive work. And this is where the real foundation gets set. That is what you build upon. Because the idea, that's all it is. It's just in your mind. It's just theory. Where you start to work in the middle, that's where you build up on it. This is where you begin. And that's where you add more, add more, add more. You keep going and going and going until you reach the very end. And that is the end result. But unfortunately, without all those previous steps, you're never going to get to here from here. Because think about what it is that you do at work right now. If you feel like you do repetitive things over and over again and it's quite boring to you, well, those exact repetitive, boring moments to you are the exact things that are building somebody else's empire. It all adds up. You may find it mundane, but all the reps count. So here's like a way to reframe this. Because I think a lot of people fail not because they're lazy, it's because they are impatient and they skip the middle part. Because we want to go from nothing to transformed within a week or a month. You know, and we sit down on a Sunday and create this magical weekly routine where we go to the gym every single day. We work on our side hustle for 2 hours every single day. We get up at 5 a.m. We don't use our phone. We read books. We make more money. And then by Wednesday, it's all gone. You're not bothered anymore. Because Wednesday, something small happened where you couldn't do your exact routine. And that's it. you just throw in the towel. And that is the all or nothing trap, where it has to be perfect or it gets abandoned. And because funnily enough, life is never perfect, that routine always gets abandoned. The Stoics actually had a word for what it is that you're after: prokopē. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. Please don't judge me on it. And it just means progress. Steady, unglamorous movement. Nothing fancy, nothing special, just progress. It's because they treated becoming a better person the same way you treat a craft. If I told you to paint an image right now, you may not be very good at painting, but if you did 100 paintings, I have a feeling that your 100th one will look magnificent in comparison to your first one. It's just simple practice and repetition. Zeno, the man behind the whole school of Stoicism, put it incredibly well into a one-liner. Well-being is reached little by little, and yet it is no little thing. Little by little. That's the method. There's no magic answer to it apart from the fact that you simply have to put in the work. This theory is actually something that's very similar that was mentioned by James Clear in Atomic Habits. It's essentially similar to getting 1% better every single day. Because if you do that, by the end of the year, you're actually dozens of times ahead than to what you would originally be if you didn't bother about trying to get those one small percenters here and there. Because those small, subtle, consistent changes are the things that are actually going to get you to your desired destination. Not some sort of overnight change or dramatic plan or thinking, that's it, I'm just going cold turkey and I'm going all in. Things like that don't work. Small adjustments always do. Then it's just a matter of willpower and whether you can actually hold yourself accountable to keep doing it. And this is the part where Stoics were really good at. And it was the dichotomy of control. It was the main thing that Epictetus kind of like focused his teaching on, because some things are in your control and some things just simply aren't. Because you cannot control whether you become great. I suppose that's down to the opinion of the public or social media, right? Because you cannot control whether it comes quickly, you cannot control who notices you, if at all, or whether it just even works out in the first place. What you control is the actions that you put in today, and then the day after that, and then so forth. Because the moment you stop looking up at the peak of the mountain and just focus on that first step in front of you, that's when things get a little easier to handle. So I'm gonna need you to pick one thing, just one. And I know that's gonna be fucking difficult for you because you're so used to doing 20 things at once. But that's the exact thing that's slowing you down and making you stuck in a position that you're in right now because you do so many things. So pick one thing and just religiously focus on that as your goal for the next month. I'm not saying you have to stop everything around you, and that's not how life works. But instead of trying to build 4 things at once, just build one. Because one thing done really well is going to be a lot better than 14 things barely started. For the next thing, pick something that you struggle with and then associate it with an embarrassingly little habit. For example, you struggle to stay consistent going to the gym. A super easy, simple, quick thing you can do is lay out your gym gear the day before and then either get changed into it first thing in the morning and go to the gym, or put it in your work bag and then go straight after work. Whether you go to the gym or not, that's entirely up to you. But once you get changed into that gym gear, I want you to tell me how you feel. I want you to tell me what's on your mind in that very moment. Because whenever I get changed into my gym stuff, the only thing that's in my mind is, where are my keys so I can get driving? And then I just set off. For the third thing, attach another little habit to something you already do. So for example, when you have your morning coffee, if you have it every single day, well, the kettle needs to boil, right? So while the kettle is boiling, do 15 bodyweight squats while you're waiting for it. Just there, in your kitchen, living room, whatever. You don't need any equipment, you don't need to set anything up, just let the kettle boil whilst you do the reps. Or some push-ups, or some stretches, whatever it may be. But you have a couple minutes to do something. Do that every single day, it's gonna compound. When you go on your lunch, because let's be honest, you're gonna have lunch every day, aren't you? And if you don't, you probably should, and make it protein focused. On your lunch, you're gonna have a little bit of spare time. Get your Kindle out or your book out and read 1 or 2 pages. The idea is that you just attach something you wanna do with something you already do. Because the difference is you either pick those things, or you whip your phone out and then you just scroll and waste those precious minutes that you could have dedicated to something that actually benefits you. For the fourth thing, just keep score on your calendar or a notes app or some sort of habit tracker, which you can actually download for free in my link below. Just keep score. Have I done the things I wanted to do on a daily basis? And that's it. And then just review. If you haven't done it, ask yourself why. What caused you not to do it? Was it a genuine thing, like an emergency, which in that case, fair enough? Or was it like a preparation, because you didn't lay your clothes out the night before? Or because you purposely didn't pack your gym shoes because in the morning you just talked yourself out of it? Keep score and review, because then those are real numbers, and real numbers don't lie. When you just think about it, you may actually just end up justifying it in your head and you just forget about it. But numbers have actual presence and weight to them. And sometimes we need to make ourselves feel a little guilty for missing something in order to just keep doing it. The fifth and final thing, never miss twice. You can have days where things are gonna fuck up, just like I mentioned in the previous point. Sometimes things happen and you simply cannot do what it is that you set out to do. And that's okay, that's just life, that's being a human. You know, we're not robots, things are gonna pop up here and there. But if we decide to miss the following day, well then that's no longer just a miss or something happened or popped up. Then that becomes a choice, because then it is up to us to get back into our normal routine. And if we don't, then we actively make that choice not to. And another big thing that people tend to get wrong about this is that when you miss a day, don't go back the following day and do double or try to squeeze in everything at once. Just do what you're supposed to do on the following day. Forget about that, forget about the missed day, it happens, whatever. Just simply move on to the following day in your plan. So all in all, I don't think you're actually lazy, because I know you're ambitious, because the way you feel on a daily basis, because you feel guilty about not doing more, because you're always thinking ahead about the future. But you are doing too much. You're jumping from one thing to the next all the time, every single day. And that is why you are where you are. And that is why you can't push and simply move forward. It's because you're always bouncing from side to side rather than taking steps and moving closer towards your goal. Because 5 years from now, you're going to be somewhere regardless. That time isn't going to magically stop. But where you are in those 5 years, well, that is entirely up to you. And if all of this makes sense, but you're still not quite sure how to take the first step, let's hop on a call. Maybe I can help. It's the first link in the description. So hopefully I'll see you there. And if not, I might see you in this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for being here, and bye-bye now.